Hello, Trev here from Trevs Bees. Here today to talk about this hive, this colony. 10 or so days ago I was called by the local council parks people who had a colony of bees in a dead tree in one of the parks, and because of the public traffic going past, it was a bit of a public nuisance. So I'm going to show you shortly about how we went about removing this colony, but I'll just give you an update of where we are now. Yesterday I looked through this hive. They are now at 7 frames of brood in here. They have drawn the comb that was in there quite well, and they have been working on and attaching their comb that I've put in here. Queen's in here, she's laying well, she's working well, the bees are working, and the colony is now looking pretty good. So, with the power of Photoshop, let's disappear from here, step back into the future, and go and remove this colony from a tree. Okay, so this is the park where the colony is, and this is the dead tree. As you can see, there's a couple of bees flying around. I came down last night once it was dark and put some netting over, fly screen netting over the 3 holes that I could see, and there was a few straggler bees that were out, so I set up my bee vac and went down to collect those live bees so that it wasn't going to affect us with the chainsaw. Notice I've now upgraded my vacuum box, and I've now got a little portable 12 volt or 18 volt DeWalt vacuum. Works very, very well. So I just had a quick check around to make sure that there was no bees, and then because the tree was so rotten, I decided to put some tie downs around the tree to hopefully hold it together once we actually decide to cut it. So there's one of the holes where the bees are. There's another one just there below the strap, and there's another one on the other side of the tree. So 3 holes altogether. This strap is actually going around 2 of the holes, the bees' entrance. As you can see, it's a pretty rotten old tree. Have no idea what it is. Greg here is the chainsaw supervisor at the City Council. Good friend of mine, I used to work with him. He's not scared of bees, which is a good thing. And he's a very good chainsaw operator. Notice he locks the chainsaw into his leg as he's starting it. He's already cleaned up some of the branches from the top of the tree. Just going to remove the old spare limb that's out the back, which the bees are not in there. Scarfing the stump, the rotten stump. And now to fell the remaining log. And there she falls, and as you can see the top blew off it, and when we looked the log had actually broken into 4 or 5 pieces, so without those straps on it, it would have been a significant mess. We had bees starting to pour out all over the place, so we quickly donned our bee suits, got the vacuum box out because it had all split up, got ourselves ready to start cleaning up this log and the bees. So just having a look to get the straps off so it wasn't going to interfere. And you can see that log split in half there, all the way up. Look at that, broken completely. So now the bees are really starting to pour out. And this is like Pandora's box. This is the first time we'd actually had a look inside the tree, because all we could see was the opening earlier on. And I knew straight away that it's at least 5, maybe 7 frames of bees. But still got no idea how big, because at this stage we were just looking through some of the cracks in the log. You can see the honeycomb there, plenty of honey in there. Can't quite see the brood at this stage. So what we did was started to peel off lumps of the tree as it were that had broken off. Getting the vacuum cleaner all ready now to use. Do a final check, make sure that the vacuum box is ready. Now going to set the vacuum level. See, checking on my hand to make sure that the pressure is right. Don't want to smash the bees when we're picking them up. And then just start to clean off each of the segments, sucking up the bees as we're going, checking what we've got, having a look for the queen if she happens to be around, because she could be anywhere in amongst this mess. But of course, while we're doing the vacuuming, we never actually get to see her. Sometimes I have. One of the advantages of the vacuum unit is that every time you collect a bee, of course, that bee doesn't fly again. It goes into the vacuum box and it's out of the way. Whereas if you try other methods, you're always contending with the bees coming out of the box and flying, and you never really get them all. We've now removed a bit more of the wood, and we can now start to see that there's at least 3 or 4 combs of wax in here. Don't know what its composition is at this stage, whether it's brood, whether it's honey or whatever, but we do know there's a fair bit of it, and the more we vacuum away, the more we see, and the bigger some of these pieces look. We now start to see some cap brood, so we now know that this stuff is at least a couple of weeks old. And every time we remove a bit more wood, we see a lot more bees. This is something that very few people will ever actually get to do as a beekeeper. In my years of beekeeping, this is the first time I've ever done one, extracted out of a tree like this. I've done them out of buildings before. Greg here on the right is my chainsaw man. He is very good. He's quite happy standing there or kneeling down here with the bees around him. He's helped me before with bees, and he has no fear of them at all, so which is a huge advantage. Even with his little chainsaw gloves on, he's quite happy putting his hands in there and checking things out. We can see cap brood there. I've set up a little 5-frame nuke here, and I've got 3 frames that have got no foundation on. They've just got wiring on them. See those in a second. Just there. I'm going to rubber band the brood comb on there. So that's a piece of honey I've taken off there. It's all sealed honey, capped honey. I've checked it to make sure the queen's not on it. There's a few workers on it. We'll worry about getting those out of the honey box later on. So we just push that brood frame into the wire. That helps it hold there. And then I like these big rubber bands. I find 1 rubber band is usually enough. And these are what they call a size 87 rubber band. They're about as big a rubber band as you can get. I find that with the smaller rubber bands, they will still work, but the bees will actually chew through them. They don't chew through these rubber bands. Now look at the size of that brood comb. So I'm inspecting it now to make sure that there's no disease on it, showing Greg some of the eggs and babies and stuff that are in there. I estimate that this hive had been, or colony had been in this tree now for about 6 weeks, because I reckon that there's been at least 2 brood cycles through this. So I cut that comb in half to put it on there, hold it in place. All this comb will actually be rotated out of the hive once I get it established and set up. Once I've started drawing some nice clean comb, then I'll move those combs to the outside and they will eventually go in the rubbish tin. Quite quickly, within about 10 days, the bees will actually attach this comb around the wire and not to the woodwork, and it'll be quite firmly attached there, and I'll be able to remove those rubber bands. Good thing with having the brood there, that'll help retain the colony within this newt box. Even if they feel like leaving, they won't be too keen about leaving, because I've got babies there and I've got something to do to look after them. By this stage in the process, we'd found about 6 full frames of comb. It doesn't take much to hold them onto those wires, because the wires are cutting in, killing a few of the grubs, but that's okay. And look at the size of that frame. That there has got to be 18 inches long, perhaps 400, 500 mils. Give it a check for foul brood. I check every frame for foul brood. Remove the honey that's on top. This time of the year I'm not worried about honey supplies, they'll have plenty. There's still plenty of honey left on the frames as I'm attaching them anyway. So you can see the honey that's on there. These frames are fully laid up. I've got eggs and babies everywhere. Little baby emerging while we're watching it, while we're working on it.
And a lot of them will fly back, so we're going to end up with a lot of flying bees.
That's still in the tree at this stage.
So all those bees in there, look, see?
What I found was quite amazing when we were doing this was how clean the bees have made all the rotten wood. They'd removed all the rotten aspects of the timber, so where they attached the comb was on nice, clean, solid wood. So this bit of comb is going to go in the rubbish bin. And about this stage I decided that I'd got enough comb, and all the bees that I had trapped in the vacuum box, I tipped them in the newt box and sealed them in. The rest of the bees I was just going to vacuum up. So those bees that I put in there, which was quite significant, they will actually keep all that brood warm and alive. We're doing this about 8:30 in the morning, so it was a little bit cool, around about 12, 14 degrees. So the bees were okay. So now we've got everything out, we've taken it home, and that's how many bees that I'd actually put into that newt box beforehand. As you can see, quite significant. So now I'm just going to go and transfer the bees into the 10 frame box, because I decided at this stage, as you can no doubt see, there was too many bees here to be in a 5 frame box. So carefully put those 3 frames of the comb right into the middle of this 10 frame. They're not in any particular order. It doesn't really matter. The bees will sort out how they fit to each other. So it's a frame of foundation. One more frame of foundation. The bees are not angry at all, that's why I'm not wearing gloves. Just being nice and careful with them. Now I'll remove the last couple of frames out of that 10 framer. And now push those all across to the side, so all these other bees, I can tip them into that gap. And then I'm a bit confused as to which way I was going to tip those in there. It didn't want to work. I tried to brush them off with my hand, but that didn't want to work. So a couple of bangs, and all the bees pretty much are in the 10 frame hive now. So the next thing is to put these 5 frames that I've got there into the middle, and now fill the hive up with all 10 frames. Make sure the box is, entrance is open, and the hive will be sitting properly on its stand. And there's the queen walking around quite nicely. Everyone's happy. Pack everything up. Last job. Put the hive strap on, make sure everyone all stays together and it doesn't get knocked around. And there's the bees now settling down, orientating to the new hive. So that's it from Trev on Trevs Bees video on YouTube. We'll catch you around in the beehive.